And welcome. Welcome to week 4 of the intro series leading into the first meeting of the Caregivers Carabiner, which starts next week, May 22nd, 2024. And I am super excited that we have got this far. Like, we've been through all the phases. We did our little meet errand, which, by the way, tangent. I'm kind of laughing at my hair. It's a little longer than I feel like I would like it for the summertime, but I've got this thing going here. And I did like a selfie thing. That was a couple months ago and posted it. And my best friend's daughter was like, Angie, that's a great mom picture. And I was like, mm. Oh, feeling all mom like bouffant. My grandma used to go to the hairdressers and get her hair set every week. And I don't know, that's what I feel like I'm channeling right now is my inner bouffant. So, but here we are. And so we did the About Erin as our week 1. Week 2, we got together and we talked about awareness. We talked about being present. We talked about being quiet. Our next week, week 3, we talked about feelings and we talked about where they land in our body, and we talked about the feelings wheel and actually being able to name and identify our feelings, and which links back to becoming aware. And now we get to link all of it with some movement. So I love all the work together because yes, you can kind of do it in order, but sometimes you'll be working through some movement and a feeling will come up, and then draws your awareness and say, where's that coming from? And so you can start really at any point and work your way through these 3 pillars, but it's just the fun of it. It's the fun of it. And I do want to make special note as we're going through some of the theories tonight, because I don't know that I made mention before, but none of these theories and approaches are intended to replace any kind of medical diagnosis or medical treatment or anything you're working with your doctor. So I am not a physician. I am not a psychiatrist, but these are all tools that I have used to help myself. And if I had known about them sooner, I think they could have helped me so much more, because they're a practice. We're learning how to use them. It's ongoing. And so the sooner we get to practice and use them, the better we get at it, the faster we can move through our bodies, and less that icky stuff adheres to us. So I just wanted to make that note for us tonight. And I mean, let's just dive right in. Let's just dive right in to the movement, because what we're talking about with movement is not your traditional movement. I'm talking more about somatic movement, which really, it is not complicated, guys. I mean, I feel kind of like I'm cheating because it's not complicated. The notion behind somatic movement only means that you are being aware and intentional with how you are moving. You're paying more attention to the inside and what's happening on around you, and doing repetitions and doing, pumping weights and doing aerobics. It is not that. So the difference between somatic movement and exercise has a physical goal attached to it. So you are lifting weights for physical appearance, cardio health, muscle gain, weight loss, things like that. So you're in those repetitive movements. You're doing reps, you're running your miles. It is very goal oriented in that way. Somatic movement is it's the opposite. You are leaning into how your body's feeling. A lot of times I do it with my eyes closed just because it blocks that visual sensory distraction around us. But it can be thought of more as very slow, gentle stretching. You're not focused on things like how high you're lifting your leg. You, again, are focused on how the movement is feeling internally. We're going to do some exercise together. You're going to see. It's going to be amazing. And we're not banging out those repetitions. It's slow, it's exploratory. Love it, thinking of it that way. And it is not forced. It is what feels good. It's what feels right. And it can be any kind of movement. So it doesn't have to be just walking or stretching or jumping jacks or standing or sitting, or it can be any kind of movement. So I wanted to introduce you guys. I have it here. Excuse me. This book called The 10-Second Miracle. And this book, while it is technically about creating relationship breakthroughs, this book is what really connected me with where we store emotions in our bodies and how it shows up and how we can feel it. And it's just super easy to remember. And it gives you some tips to work through it. But I'm actually going to take it a little different way than the author does. So stay with me here. So in The 10-Second Miracle by Gay Hendricks, he breaks the upper body down into 3 zones. Now, zone 1 is our head, our neck, and our shoulders. And in our head, neck, and shoulders, that's where anger shows up. And he talks about anger as something being off balance. And it's really the need to become equal. So when we're feeling angry, we're feeling some level of inequity. And it's either a trespass of physical or moral boundaries. And that's what puts us on unequal footing. And so we get angry and we want to see that balanced out. And until we feel the balance, we're going to feel the anger. And when you get really used to practicing this, you feel it right up your back, like when a dog gets mad and he its haunches, the fur stands up right on the back of the neck, and their shoulders go and they growl. It happens to us too, right in here. And when we ignore it, we talked about this in feelings, when we ignore that feeling and how it's showing up in our body, if we don't address it, we're going to get neck pain. We're going to get headaches. It's going to creep into our shoulders, and it's all going to hurt. And the longer, then we start taking a pill. Oh, got a little headache. I better take a pill. And the more we train ourselves to do that, we are out of touch with what we're really feeling. I shared a story recently. I had, for the very first time in my life, what I can only describe as TMJ syndrome. The whole right side of my jaw was in muscle spasm. I could speak, but eating hurt. Just to open my mouth wide enough to get a fork full of food in there hurt. Chewing hurt. I went to see one of my friends. I'm like, I think I'm going to eat some gummy worms. That was not the best choice. I still managed to eat them. Don't get me wrong. I still managed to eat them. And as part of that, I was mindful of telling my jaw, hey, like, I understand you're trying to tell me something. I'm working on it. I'm trying to figure out what it is. Well, what lives in that space is resentment. And let me think about my jaw. I was talking about zone 1 in the book, The 10-Second Miracle. And in the book, Gay Hendricks talks about different zones of the body and where we feel our emotions. So zone 1 is our head, our neck, and shoulders. And when those areas start to hurt, we're feeling anger. Anger is what lives in these areas. And so the more we ignore those areas, the louder it's going to talk to us if we don't address what's going on. Zone 2 is our throat. So for zone 1 is the neck, but zone 2 is the throat and the chest. And the throat is where sadness shows up. So when we get a lump in our throat, that little knot, that tightness, it doesn't have to be drastic. So it can be a little bit of tightness. If you really notice before you start to cry, you'll feel a tightness in your throat. That actually comes before the tears come. The chest is actually where longing lives. And it can be that pressure, that just crunch in your chest, or just, again, that tightness. And so when we're able to tune into those feelings, we can start to think about what might be making us sad and acknowledging the sadness so that it can move on. We can start acknowledging what we might be longing for, which could be something in a relationship. It could be something in ourselves. In the book, Gay talks about how so many people just live in a perpetual state of longing because they don't like their work. They want to be an artist. They want to be a creator of some kind, and they're not living that life. And so they have this perpetual tightness and discomfort in their chest. And then zone 3 is our stomach, our bellies. And interestingly enough, before I started tonight, I was practicing the little 10-second rule just over and over again. And I was like, okay, well, I'm scared because I went to eat some dinner and I was like all nauseous. And that's it, that queasy little feeling we get in our stomach when the stomach flips or we just feel sick. That's fear. And that comes from ancient times, from when the lions were chasing us, the tigers were chasing us, like we were going to die because something was going to eat us. And when we're active, the digestive system shuts down. So when we're feeling fear, our digestive system shuts down and we start to feel kind of sick to our stomachs. So tonight I actually kind of went through all of the things. I'm like, okay, so my throat, why am I sad? Why am I sad? Because my throat was a bit all tight. I went to eat dinner and I was feeling kind of queasy. I feel like I am not mad about things, but I was definitely feeling a little sad and a little fearful tonight. So it's very interesting to see how those things show up. Now, in the 10-second miracle, Gay goes through the next step, which is how to communicate what you're feeling in like one sentence, one breath statements to help improve your relationships. And so that's really the direction that the book takes. But I'm kind of twisting it a little around tonight, and I'm combining it with the movement, because what I really feel is that when we can step into our awareness, too, and tap into the feelings, which this protocol helps us with, because if nothing else, even if we can't figure out what we're feeling, we know, oof, it's my chest, I'm feeling it right here. Okay, we can identify that with something, then maybe we can explore it. But then, particularly if we're not in a place where we can communicate our feelings, either because we don't feel like it's appropriate, we don't feel like it's safe, maybe they're not here for us to communicate to, we can start to work through some of that ourselves. And maybe some of the conversations are ones we need to have with ourselves. That's something to think about. So we're going to go through some exercises so you can see how this works instead of me just chattering about all night. So let me just take a look at my note and see what order I wanted to do this in. Because I want to be able to play, because that's the fun thing about the somatic movement is there is no form. Not an exercise, it's not repetition, there's not an order to it. It is what feels good to you right now in a moving place. It can be big movements, it can be little movements. It doesn't do whatever you want. It might be the only time in your life you get to do whatever you want. And so let's start. So first, let's step, and I have all my lights on. I even cleaned my office for you guys and didn't have the background in case we want to like get up and move around. So we'll see where the movement takes us tonight. So we get to get into our awareness. So wherever you guys are, you can lay down, you can be seated, you can be standing. Just, if you're driving, don't close your eyes. Let's be smart. And let's take a deep breath. And a big exhale. I brought all kinds of excited energy into this space. Put a hand on your heart, hand on your belly. Let's take another deep breath. And one more. And again, I like to close my eyes just to block out all of those visionary distractions. If you like to do it with your eyes open, you can. Sometimes it's harder to move through the protocol until you're really practiced at it with those extra distractions. So with our next breath, let's just start a scan. We're going to take 2 breaths. And in the time of that 2 breaths, I want you to take just a little snapshot of your torso from your head down to your belly and just notice if anything feels uncomfortable. And you can start by playing with the scale we talked about last week, 0 to 10, 0 being like you're feeling super chill before we even start, and 10 like, I don't even know what's going on. This is super uncomfortable. I don't even want to be here. I want to crawl out of your skin. So make a mental note of where you are. And let's start our scan. Breathe in. And exhale. Breathe in. And exhale. And you can think about, or you can type in the chat, only if you felt off, if you felt like super clear, totally in flow, amazing, that's amazing. Like, keep doing what you're doing. If you feel like something was maybe a little bit off, then that's where we get to play. And for me, it's so funny. I'm still feeling a little something in my throat, a little sadness that I'm feeling in there. So I get to explore that a little bit. Let's see. So we'll go to phase 2. We'll see if some of the movement helps. So I'm just going to take you through just different movement from the head all the way down. You can focus on the area where you might be feeling tightness. You can follow along with me. You can watch, you can come back, whatever feels good to you. But the movements that we do, they're going to be slower. You know, so many times we get into a gym class or something, and even I'm just thinking now that I have my head tilted of neck rolls, and every time I'm in a class, they're like, okay, roll your neck to the right, and I'm like halfway through, and they're like, okay, now go to the left. I'm like, there was more to go. Like I feel like I'm giving myself whiplash. So I can feel that right through my throat. You can raise your shoulders. Maybe you do want to play with some bigger movements and do bigger circles with your arms. And it can be as slow and fast as you like. The key again is, oh, see the shoulder wants to come forward a little bit. Is to really tune into what's happening inside and what's feeling good. You can do some chest inversions, kind of crunch everything in, slowly tighten, and then open up that chest and the whole heart. Kind of pinching your shoulder blades back a little bit. You can take that through to your stomach. Do some rotations. Just going to wiggle here because I feel weird just standing up and throwing my stomach in front of the camera, so I'm not doing that. Now I want you to stop again. Let's come back to the center. Hand on chest, hand on belly. Take a few more deep breaths. And take that snapshot again. And think about how you shifted on that scale of 0 to 10. So I probably, in my throat when we started, I was probably about a 6. I'd say that exercise dropped me down to a 4. And probably if I did it again and wasn't explaining and talking and I was actually super aware only of myself, I can probably get that down to a 3. Another very interesting conversation just about the scale. When you're doing this kind of work and releasing emotion and releasing the stickiness, you may not always want to get to 0. Let me explain. And part of this goes back to EFT, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But when you start at a very heightened state and you're super uncomfortable, like at a 10, and you're just like, and you do these exercises, either the somatic movement and the breathing or tapping, any of these exercises, and you're able to come down on that scale, you don't want to get to the point where you just numb yourself out. Like, feeling something is okay. Feeling something is good. Allowing ourselves to learn how to process things in the real world is good without completely numbing out. So if you don't get yourself to a 0, it's okay. Just getting from a 10 to a 9, 10 to an 8, a 6 to a 5, a 6 to a 3, that's amazing progress. That is amazing. And it's so individual. It really is so personal, and it's going to depend on you. It's going to depend on the day, and it's going to depend on whatever emotion you're working with and how long you've been living with it. There's so many factors. So just going through these steps is a huge deal and it's big progress and it's big work. And so I'm just super proud of you for showing up to try it. Let's see. And the other really lovely thing about these is you can incorporate these kind of somatic movements no matter where you are. So you can be in your cubicle at your 9 to 5. You don't have to be at the gym. You don't have to be in fancy workout clothes. I mean, I'm in my leopard top and jeans tonight doing somatic movement, and it works out really well. You can incorporate it in your walks in nature while you're walking and doing the movement. You can do it while you're at the beach. So it's multi-layered, multifaceted. So it can be really simple, it can feel really simple. It can also feel really hard sometimes because like I talked about, I'm not really quite sure where this sadness is generating from. I don't really know why that's there. And so even though I've come down on the scale and it's improved, I get to explore some other opportunities. And that's where the extra levels of play get to come in. And this is the fun work that we get to do in the Carabiner, because we get to take these pillars, the awareness, the feelings, and the movement, and we get to learn how to use them, but then we get to layer in all these other activities. And it doesn't have to be like sad, depressing, icky work. I mean, even just the movement can be so much fun. It can be on the walks, it can be at the beach, but you get to incorporate things like creating art. When I first started getting creative again, it was uncomfortable and it was weird, because I was a recovering perfectionist. I wanted my art to be beautiful. Like, I wanted it to be able to hang in a museum. I wanted it to be perfect. And I didn't want to waste like my paints and my papers. Like, well, if I'm going to make something, it has to be good enough so I'm not wasting the materials. It was that level of weirdness for me. So I bought these things and then I just looked at them and I was afraid to use them. And finally, when I made my first painting, I remember, I do, it's right on top here. Hold on. So this was the first painting that I made. And it's actually like a girl and she's singing, talking, yeah, like she's making noise. A girl making noise. And it's in blues, and I've got some metallic silver there and lavender and purple. And I will never forget, because I got all brave. Like, it's my thick art paper and my pretty paints, the metallic paint, like big deal. It's a big deal for me. And I shared it publicly, and I saw somebody and they said to me, I'm really surprised that that's what you painted. I would have expected you to do something like really vibrant and exciting. And I was like, man, because this to me was a big deal. This was a big deal to me. And it bothered me for a minute. I'm not gonna lie. It bothered me for a minute. I felt like, see, I messed it up. I was afraid I was gonna mess it up, and the people wanted something else from me. But what this painting was, I was feeling soft. These were the colors I was feeling. And this is what I got to lean into. And this is what brought me joy. It wasn't, there's other things that I painted that have been bright and exciting and fun. But in this moment, this is what I was feeling. And so the art lets us play in that way. And again, we can start with feelings and we can work into our movement and then create art in that feeling, or we can back it out the other way and we can just start creating and see what comes up. And that's why this work that we're doing in the Carabiner is so complementary to your talk therapy, because like, I don't know, I don't have enough hours in the month to be in talk therapy all the time. I have to be there for 10 hours a week to get through all the things. But there's things that are uncovered in talk therapy that you can then bring home and use these tools to work on and create. These tools also may uncover things that you're like, wow, this is an old thing that's been here. I don't know, maybe I'll identify this sadness in some upcoming art. And then I can take it into my talk therapy and say, hey, I've got this thing. Can you help me through that? So it's a really beautiful pairing in that way. We also get to explore different ways of journaling, because it's not the Dear Diary that like I grew up with. I looked at old, or I remember, I do not have them anymore. But I remember writing like in my first diary that had a little lock on it. And it was, Dear Diary, my sister did this, my mom did at school, this boy said this thing and broke my lunchbox. That was the Dear Diary situation. And I got to learn how to journal all over again, like as a grown-up human who is allowed to express herself. And so we get to explore that with journal prompts and creativity. I learned a lot through free flowing my writing through the Artist's Way books, which I really want to do a book club element in the Carabiner. And so that might be something interesting that we can do together if the group wants to go through the Artist's Way together, because that's a beautiful, fun book. Another technique that we're going to play with in the Carabiner, and I'm going to be doing one-on-one sessions with this, is EFT tapping. And if you haven't heard of tapping before, essentially what it is a pattern disruptor. And the core belief of EFT is that our negative emotions are a disruption in our body's energy system. So can you see that connection between the work we did between the zones and the theory behind EFT? So the EFT disrupts the pattern and allows the energy to flow through and disrupts the negative thought patterns, which I feel like that didn't come out of my mouth, right? But we're going to play with that. I'm going to be doing a whole other series on tapping, and we're going to like really dig into that in the Carabiner because it's a lot of fun. And again, beautiful complement to your talk therapy. The EFT can also help release those fears. It can help address and release old traumas and even those beliefs that really are not serving us that we want to release. So it's really easy technique. You can do it with yourself. You can do it with a practitioner. Like I will be doing it one-on-one with clients. If you just want someone to help create your statements that you want to move through. So tapping, you're actually tapping on acupressure points on your body. And as you're going through the statements and emotions, you hit these different points on your body and it helps disrupt the thought pattern. So it's a very interesting, fascinating modality. I love it so much. And then, the community itself is really just going to be caregivers showing up as themselves. They just get to be themselves with no judgment and no expectations, because so many times, even if we should try to show up socially with people and we're in our caregiving mode, people just don't know how to act around us. We don't know how to express ourselves, and we just can't show up fully. And when we're not showing up and able to fully express ourselves, it starts to feel weird. It starts showing up in our bodies. And so this is a place where we can play, we can heal, and we can just be. Because the caregiving doesn't define us. That heaviness that we can feel, it doesn't define us. It's just one of the many facets of our beautiful human selves. And it is more complex, and it can be really exhausting, and a lot of people don't understand it. But we can approach it not as martyrs or victims, but with strength and confidence and just from a place of purpose and love. That's, guys, that's what it's all about. It's all about love. So now I'm going to give you just a few more details on joining the Caregivers Carabiner as we start next Wednesday, the 22nd. I'm very excited to have our first meeting with everybody. So I just wanted to go through a couple of the bonuses with you if you join as a founding member before Wednesday. So you will get an autographed copy of my book. You will get your own copy of the patient handbook. And I don't know if I put a newsletter out about this yesterday. I found out when my grandmother just passed away that my chart goes away instantly when somebody dies. Now with my grandmother, I was only going back into it because I was really just trying to organize a timeline in my mind about what happened with her in the series of events. Nobody did anything wrong. It wasn't anything like that. There was information I wanted to sort out for myself, and it was gone. If you are in a different situation, you may want to have medical records of your own. I always tell people, have your own medical records. It's super easy to be like, oh, they're just in my chart. They live in the cloud. Download them. Download what you need, or keep a handbook or something so you have your own notes. That is my public service announcement for the night. So you get autographed copy of my book. You get your own copy of the patient handbook. You get a one-on-one onboarding intro call with me. That will be 30 minutes. You will get discounts on future programs that I run that may be outside of the Carabiner. You get the founding member price of $350 for a full year. That's like $29 a month. So I don't know about you. I know my therapy is not covered by insurance. And that runs me like $200 an hour. So having this extra access to fun and lightheartedness and support and tools that supports that journey for $29 a month, like, feels really good to me. As a founding member, that price also stays locked in for you for the entire time you remain a member in good standing. It won't go up. That is your price. It is the lowest price it will ever be. It's going to go up after this. So now, if you are still interested, but you're like, oh, I just don't know. I'm not sure. I have just today, just tonight, right before I got on here, I set up a monthly subscription feature. So if you choose to be a monthly membership subscriber, you can join for $35 a month. However, you don't get the extra bonuses. And after 1 year, the price is subject to an increase. So the bonus, I mean, to be a founding member, you just get in, you get to co-create, you get to grow with everything that we're doing, and it's very, very exciting. You can still have that journey with us on a month-to-month level. It just looks a little different on the financial side, but that might be what you need right now. And so I wanted to create something that honored that. So those are the details on the Carabiner. We went through the module on movement. We talked about blending it with our awareness and our feelings. We mushed it all together. We practiced the movement. We talked about the tapping and art and creativity. I'm excited for the book club aspect. I want to be able to share recipes. I want to have a room in there that is just like a share the light room. So yeah, when you feel like you need some love, maybe some prayers, there's a space for that. When you feel like you need to stomp it out because things are going to shit, there's going to be a place for that. But mostly it's just for caregivers to have a place where they can just chill and be themselves. They can be themselves and have some joy and lightness and play and tools just all in one nice little package. So thank you all so much for joining me on this 4-week series. I can't believe it's been 4 weeks already. If you were not able to catch me live, you will get the replay. And if you have any questions for me about the Carabiner, go ahead and email me at erincopeland.com, or yes, just do that. And I will get back to you and we can sort out any questions you have. Otherwise, I hope you have a super fantastic evening. I love you all so much, and I look forward to seeing you in the membership next week. Have a fantastic night. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.